All right, I've just been informed that we're live. So I'd love to welcome everyone here to this Ask Us Anything session with the Islamic Family Social Services Association. We've got a panel here today, both IFSSA staff and associates, to talk about the product manager role that we've been advertising. And we're hoping to kind of flesh out the description that we've shared publicly about this role and what it would mean, and hopefully answer some questions that might be on your mind if this role is of interest to you. First of all, I'll just introduce myself to everyone. My name is Craig St. Jean. I'm going to be moderating this discussion, and I am a PhD student at the University of Alberta, and I've been working with IFSSA on some of the projects that the product manager will also be contributing to. So the Transform project in particular, I've been assisting with some research related to that. And perhaps I could invite the members of our panel to take a moment to introduce themselves. Omar, would you like to go first?
Oh, actually, I'll let Maria and Samara go first.
Sure. Hi, so I'm Maria Savidov, and I am a business analyst working for Bissell Center, another nonprofit organization. And I am consulting with IFSSA. Bissell Center just completed our own transformation of intake and outcomes and data management as well. And so I'm really excited to share our learnings and experiences and also move forward and learn together.
Salam and peace be with you, everyone. My name is Samara Farouk, and I'm the Essential Care Manager at IFSA. I head a team of frontline navigators who are the first point of contact and intake workers who currently do registrations, determine eligibility, and provide direction to clients to meet their needs, such as food security or outreach support. I would be working closely with the product manager to bring culmination to an ideal intake procedure that is focused on transformational goals.
Salam, peace. My name's Omar. I get to serve the entire team at IFSA. For those of you who don't know IFSA, IFSA is an Imagine Canada accredited charity. We recently won the Canadian Mental Health Association Professional Care Award, the Government of Alberta's Inspiration Award for combating domestic violence, and we're featured in this month's Edify magazine. I want to begin first in the name of the most generous, the most merciful, and I want to acknowledge and ask for blessings on the land we're gathering, a land we recognize as the ancestral land of the Indigenous people. The Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Nakota Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Anishinaabe, Intuit, and many others to whom we are bound by treaty, our shared humanity, and a sacred call to brotherhood, sisterhood, and civic duty. I want to start out by how we got here. And that begins a few years back when we looked at our mission question. And what we did was we revisited it, and we realized that a mission statement wasn't resonating. And we came up with a question, and that question was, how do we support the whole person flourish in our community? And if we're honest ourselves, if we reflect on what we heard, we weren't living up to it. If we focused on our, when we looked at our research, when we looked at what our clients were saying, we realized we weren't serving them fully. We chose to focus on intake because it's our first point of contact. It's our first point of opportunity, but it's also our first point of failure. One of the things we heard from our clients when we were doing interviews was that they expected more from us. They came to us expecting that we would open doors for them, that we would help them find opportunities, but what they received was just a hamper. Hearing that was a sucker punch to the soul. Our self-realization as we conducted research and interviews with our clients was that we knew our clients could succeed. We need them to believe that they can succeed as well. This requires a system and a process that nurtures trust. Unfortunately, what we've done with our existing intake system is we've unwittingly cast ourselves as bouncers, not guides. Why we're here is we want to change this. We want to change our systems and our environments. We want to move from assessing eligibility to transformative goals. And we want to set those goals using a guided, flexible, but rigorous and informed process. We want to move from a focus on interrogation to conversation, move from being a bouncer to a guide, move from identifying deficits to building on assets, move from an intake process that's monumental to incremental. We want our intake system to be based on goals, not quantity, right? It's really, really easy for an organization to say, as we do, and as I do, that we now serve more people in 1 month than we did in all of 2015 and give ourselves a pat on the back. But if we're honest and we reflect on that, it's really a sign of endemic failure, of chronic poverty. What we want to measure is how many people are getting out of poverty. A new intake system is a key to that goal. Why I'm really happy about what we're doing is it's an opportunity to transform the sector. And our approach is built on collaboration with IFSSA and others. It's built on an informed approach, which is rigorous and peer-reviewed. We've had incredible support from Startup Edmonton, from MetaLab, and we have a prototype that's making waves in social work and tech circles. I want to share a little bit of that prototype with you because I'm really excited to share it. And give me a sec to share my screen. And for those of you at home, you can see this on share.islamicfamily.ca/transform. It's been updated recently. A few of the things I think are really important is using thoughtful design. Oftentimes when we look at solutions made for the social work sector, just looking at the interfaces can sink your heart because they're not considerate of the end person using them. One of the things that we really appreciate about the interface is that we've thought about how do we motivate the frontline worker with simple nudges and elements of gamification, reminding them of the achievements they've helped people achieve. So in this instance, you see that this person helped so-and-so with so many goals. They've done this many referrals. It's a reminder of why they show up to work. We want to personalize it. We want to actually showcase stories, not just numbers. So when we're doing our client view, we're talking about the stories people have and their photos and trying to make memorable connections that last. We're also connecting with clients in a multitude of ways. We realize that first language literacy might not be present in many of the people we serve, but many of the clients we serve have smartphones, over 90%. They might not use it in the same way as someone who's literate does, but they're still using it. And so can we send a message to them in their first language as a voice memo over WhatsApp? What might that mean in terms of getting them access to services, connecting to more things? Can we avoid data traps intelligently? Something as simple as not forcing someone to type in a phone number when someone doesn't have it, but giving them an opportunity to explain why. Thinking about transformative goals, right? Oftentimes when we hear about goal setting, we think it's an overwhelming, very overwhelming and tough to do thing consistently from person to person to person. But what we see in the Austin LifeWorks self-sufficiency matrix is there's a methodology we can build on that's rigorous and peer reviewed. And we want to do this collaboratively. So thinking about simple things in the interface where there's an opportunity for a client view. And finally, thinking about how can we set goals and share stories with people so that it's an ongoing journey of conversation. These are all things that I think are really, really important and something that I'm hoping the product manager will help us to achieve in short order. And with that, I'll just open it up to questions. I'm really excited to hear your questions, because I think it's a real opportunity for us to learn and to get to learn more about the role and what it can achieve, and see where there's that opportunity for cross-pollination.
Thanks so much, Omar. So we are going to be taking questions from the audience through the YouTube live chat. But to get the ball rolling, we have a question that came in via email from someone who's curious to learn a little bit more about this role. And I'm going to ask that question now. So the person wants to know, for the product manager position, could you please talk about what a typical day or week might look like, who the person will be working with, and what kind of support will they have? And there's a part 2 to that question, which is to elaborate a little bit more on Amplify, the Amplify project, in terms of how you anticipate the product rollout and what staff are involved. And this person is also curious, what is the expected hourly commitment per week? So maybe we could start with, from the beginning, what would a typical day or week look like in this position, and who would the product manager be working with?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll start out, and I know others will chime in. I think that the best way to start out is with an honest answer, which is we don't know. There's a great deal of newness to this role, and we're open to working with an individual and working with a firm. And we realize that someone who's a senior expert in this area might take less time to do it than someone who's mid-career. And so we're really looking to the person or firm who's applying for this role to help us understand how much time they think it needs. Right? The constraints we have are our budget, but we're really open to finding flexible ways of working. I think what's essential, absolutely essential to this role, is that it is really collaborative and consultative, that it's working very thoughtfully and judiciously with frontline workers, with experts like Sumera and Maria, to really ensure that the solution fits their needs. Sumera, Maria, anything to add?
I agree. I believe the product manager would be working closely with pretty much all of the staff at IFSA. That includes the frontline navigators, myself, the essential care manager. They would be working with the clinical director, all of the outreach workers, to make sure that they're getting feedback from the staff that deal with clients on a day-to-day basis.
I could tackle Amplify. So Amplify is a white label product that's already worked in Winnipeg and Brandon and a few American cities that we need to port over. And so the challenges with Amplify will be less technical in nature and more about how do we get that product rollout working within Edmonton. What we're doing with Amplify is repurposing a product in different ways. And so there might be some technical constraints in terms of working with the developer. But the biggest challenges I anticipate with Amplify are, hiring and identifying people to help build business relationships, building out the brand and roadmap, and ensuring that we're delivering on the change we hope to see through it.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I've got a question here from the YouTube chat from Luca. And Luca wonders, can you discuss the digital literacy of your client base?
Oh, yeah, I don't mind starting that. That's a great question. I think one of the things we're trying to do is, take some of the principles of universal design. So if you think about a wheelchair ramp makes it better for everybody, not just the person in a wheelchair. So when we think about digital literacy, we might think about a person who has a smartphone, but maybe they don't have basic literacy in their own language. So they can't read or write their first language, nor can they read or write English, but they may be able to navigate WhatsApp. And if we think about that as our base client, that opens up a lot of possibilities and opens up a lot of really interesting challenges. Like, how do you do ID and passwords and authentication when someone doesn't always have the same birthday or doesn't always remember or spell their name in the same way? I think those are really exciting challenges to be thinking about. And when we think about digital literacy, thinking about lowering the bar and creating more access is so integral. I love that question.
Thanks, Omar. Sumera, is there anything that you might like to add about the digital literacy of the client base?
I agree with Omar. I believe that our clients are proficient at using apps such as WhatsApp, but the minute we send them a document or if we ask them to read over a client oath, which we forwarded to them, they become very confused and they don't know how to navigate systems like those.
Yeah. Like something simple might be like, if our clients are using WhatsApp, but the way they're using is recording voice memos and sharing it with each other, why aren't we working with them in that space?
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. For the next question, I wanted to pull the camera back a little bit and go a bit bigger picture. And I wanted to ask Sumera in particular, what's broken currently with IFSSA's approach? Why is it that we're doing this in the first place?
Well, staff at IFSSA have been providing support to our community for over 25 years. I can't tell you how often they go above and beyond their roles to help the vulnerable because they find fulfillment in what they do. While the process worked before because we weren't helping a large number of people, the last 5 years has seen like a significant growth in our clientele. We can serve like over 40 client families in one day and do 15 to 20 intakes in 1 week. Currently, that means 5,000 people a team of 10 is administering to. I can give you an example of a client who came to us because she was a newcomer. She was unemployed, food insecure, and completely on her own. We did an intake, asked for documents and bank information, and determined she was definitely eligible for our food hamper program. And we referred her to like a resume writing workshop. But then her time was up and we had another intake to do. In the meantime, she continued picking up her monthly hamper, but we weren't reminded to check in or follow up on her or her resume workshop. She just became another number we were serving in our system. 6 months down the road, we did a phone interview with her and she said, I really felt welcomed when I came to IFSSA. I'm so grateful for the monthly food hamper, but my situation is worse than before. I went to the resume workshop, but I still don't have a job because I don't have any references. I'm isolated from my community and have no support system. I'm about to be evicted. I don't speak the language well, and there are so many cultural differences I don't understand. I am overwhelmed. And then it clicks that we have let this person fall through the cracks. We need a system that supports us provide customized referrals and resources over a series of follow-up appointments. One that sets reminders for us and pushes notifications and automates referrals the client can benefit from. This will help us do the job we want to do the way it should be done.
Thanks so much, Sumera. I might improvise here just a little bit, and I saw a question come in the chat that I think dovetails really nicely with what we're just discussing. The question is again from Luca, and to those others who are tuned in, I'll do my best to get to your questions in a moment, but I thought that this one fits in nicely. Can you provide an overview of what other key touch points along the client journey that you're looking to have this product support? And I wondered if, Maria, since we haven't heard from you yet, I wondered if you might be able to speak to that, the touch points along the client journey that we'll be supporting with this product.
Absolutely, I'd love to, Craig. So, of course, BISL and IFSA are different organizations, so it won't always translate. However, what we're planning currently is, so after that first interaction at intake, follow-ups to ensure that they have been connected to the correct program within IFSA, as well as follow-ups to any other referrals, external referrals that they might have. Any case management, so doing case notes as people are working towards their goals with IFSA, and then as well as outcomes, conversations, potentially at 3-month intervals, or maybe different by program, where we reassess how those folks are doing in terms of their goals, life situations in different domains of their lives, etc. So that's what we kind of hope to capture. Is there anything that Omar or Samara, you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I really appreciate what you said. I think one of our hopes is, can we move our engagements from being monumental to being incremental? One of Craig's insights when we were doing this was like, why is intake only what happens when you're there physically present? Why can't part of it be someone filling out some questions on the bus, or things that happen bit by bit? And I think that's a really important shift that technology allows and facilitates. It also reminds me of some research I recently read around the most effective deterrent for suicide is intermittent text messaging, right? So someone just sending a text message to someone randomly has the greatest efficacy for preventing suicide, right? Because it reminds someone that they're cared for, that they're that someone is checking in with them. And more so than many other interventions, it's just the incremental is more important often than the monumental.
Thanks for that answer, Omar and Maria. There's a question in the chat from Ibrahim, and the question is, has a vendor been chosen for the development of this project? And I might just add, I'm not sure whether Ibrahim is referring to Amplify or Transform there, but it's possible that Omar, you might know what he might mean.
Yeah, I can talk about both. So for Amplify, because it's a white label product, there is a vendor that we're already working with and just bring that product. For Transform, one of the things we hope is that the product manager will help us with determining which firm to work with. One of the things people will probably ask based on that question is like, what's the budget for that? And, like many scale up or startups, that's a question we're working on, right? We're doing our asks for capital. We're looking at vendors and what they'll charge. And we're looking at the amount that can come in pro bono. We were incredibly fortunate in that MetaLab donated $150,000 worth of labor to this project. We think there may be similar opportunities with Skull Foundation, Google.org, and others to leverage philanthropic tech, but we also realize that we want the product to get done sooner rather than later, and that takes some fiscal investment.
And another product-related question here from Spencer. Spencer asks, if the product is successful, does IFSA have any desire to commercialize the platform?
Yeah, so I think that's also an excellent question. I think it comes back to first intentions, and first and foremost, our goal is that people are using the product. What we think in terms of like scaling up and sustaining this project is that we want nonprofits under 2 million to be able to access this product freely. Organizations above that size, we feel, should have the resources to license it. And we also think there's a second and third tier for commercialization, which is government, which often mandates a 10% of any grant or contract they award to go towards evaluation. And so this could nicely fit within that. And the third tier would be data and research groups looking for synthetic data that's well informed so that they can make better research.
Thanks, Omar. Luca has another question here related to the client journey. And Luca asks, what kinds of positive impacts would you hope for in terms of the employee experience in digitizing the client journey?
Yeah, I love that question. That's wonderful. I think about, maybe I'm a bit of a UI snob. I don't know if that's the right term, but I think about, a pleasant interface can make your work easier. And I think there's ways to also incorporate gamification, right? So if we can use the UI to help frontline workers be better at what they do and to feel more effective and to be reminded of why they got into the sector, I think that's super important. And so that goes to little things like reminding them of the number of goals they achieved, but also supporting them rather than trapping them, right? So little things like, what we often see in the sector is that there's a data hygiene is poor, and data hygiene is poor not because of the caliber of people working, but it's poor because of the way we've set up systems, right? So if you tell someone a phone number is a mandatory field, but they're working with someone who doesn't have a phone number at that time, well, they're just going to put in 11111, and you're going to have bad data for years. But if you start to say, hey, that's actually a design problem, and we're going to design so that the frontline worker can put in a note about that, well, then we set ourselves up for long-term success. We set that worker up for a better outcome. And I think also, the reason people get into this work is not because it's a job. It's because they want to see people flourish. I think first and foremost, the better we can do that, the better people will feel about what they do. And maybe Maria can chime in about kind of some of the transformative experiences their process has had at Bissell.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Bissell Center, when I started, I guess, almost 8 years ago now, our data was quite fragmented and siloed. So different programs would gather slightly different data depending on what funders wanted. And it was very difficult to just have a full picture of how is Bissell actually helping? Are we? And then also it was very difficult to understand each client's journey and look at what we actually care about, which is helping people move out of poverty. And so when we started being more deliberate and looking for a tool to help us measure that and have those conversations and be very intentional about those conversations with participants, it really made a big difference. And it was it makes a big difference also when you have processes in place that make sure that clients aren't falling through the cracks. Like, for example, Samara's the story about that client that was receiving food hampers, but her life situation was getting worse and worse. And so to have a way, a tool, a process that helps track that and helps guide those conversations in a very deliberate way, and also reminds to follow up and see those outcomes, I think has been so powerful. And the data culture at Bissell has also really improved through the years, as well as we've been consulting with staff and asking them those important questions, and also asking clients and consulting as well. So it's definitely been a game changer for us. Did
Thanks
that
so much, Maria.
answer the question? Sorry.
Yeah, I thought that was a great answer. I love the point about data culture.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, no, it's been very, very heartening to see people really care about data and you know, not look at it 100% like an annoying chore and care about its cleanliness and accuracy and the stories that it helps tell. So it's great.
A question here relates to the product team. Tell us more about the product team and who is contributing to the coding and the product development in general.
Yeah, so this is a question we're hoping the product manager will steward. We're open to individuals and firms, and so either may bring their own skills and expertise. They may also choose to work with certain developers based on competencies. We're also interested in no-code approaches. One of the things I'm hoping the product manager will prioritize is sustainability of the project and enabling capacity within the firm to continue to improve the system. Yeah, but to answer the question, it hasn't been chosen yet, so we're open to guidance on that question.
One of the ways I interpreted this question, and correct me if I'm wrong though, is that there's some interest perhaps in who the person in the product manager role would be interacting with. Who would they be communicating with, and who would be supporting them in their role?
Oh, thanks for that clarification. I think that's a good insight. I think it's really, really important that they be working really closely with Samara and Maria and their teams. I think there's also long-term potential for this to be supporting a number of other organizations. And so we want to be very collaborative and consultative with them so that, if they're thinking about a change to their systems in 2022, that feels like an organic and easy choice for them.
Awesome. Spencer wants to know, do you think there is space in this project to involve typically underrepresented people in tech? And Spencer includes an example like interns or volunteers or even paid developers.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. I would, I think like it's really, really important that our values are lived throughout the entire journey of the process, including representation. One of the things that we've tried to do as an organization that's run by people of color and has women a majority of leadership positions is try to create more of those opportunities, and would love it if the product manager also shared those values and look for opportunities to build those types of opportunities.
Thanks so much, Omar. I was wondering whether we could talk a little bit about what the impact of this product manager's role might be for clients as well as for colleagues. And I wondered if that's something that you might be able to speak to, Maria.
Absolutely, yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, at Bissell Center, it has made a difference for a client. It's a way of reflecting on their journey, and then as well, one of the things I'm very excited about is those some automated notifications to make sure that they're not falling through the cracks. So even if you haven't spoken to someone in a few weeks or a month, they might not be top of mind for you to follow up with and make sure they're doing okay. But if something like that is automated, that that would be such an amazing enhancement to the great work that frontline workers are already doing. You know, I'm really excited that we're looking into language flexible solutions as well, and more kind of humanizing, transparent ways of interacting with folks as well, more conversational, not necessarily through with a desktop computer or a laptop in between you. So that's something I'm very excited about in terms of what IFSSA is creating here.
And I mean, I can add about the employee experience on this, like having we're already kind of doing a dance of joy because the process has started. But for employees, it would mean a move from interrogation to conversation. Like we would be prompted to ask the right questions, especially when we're short on time and we have a lot on our plates. This is going to be a great help. We don't need to ask like intrusive questions about a client's bank balance, but more questions about how we can actually help them. It would mean like prioritizing mental health and providing tailor-based referrals. Clients are coming to us from refugee camps, having suffered the traumas of war. They can be doctors and engineers who have valid credentials, and we can refer them to specialized programs. It would mean like having access to systemic questions to identify impactful goals. What do they feel will have the greatest impact on their current situation? Is it housing? Is it food security or community connection? Like what help can we do? What can we do to prioritize that? It would mean having ongoing conversations with clients, like follow-ups on referrals and goal setting, getting to know the client and being aware of their situations. We would have access to an automated referral system based on like client demographics, which will really help us to be able to separate clients who are eligible for certain services. Like for example, seniors over 65 who are eligible for government COVID supplements, or single mothers with children for whom Islamic Relief is providing care kits. Newcomers arriving in the last 6 months who need winter coats because it's their first winter, or expectant mothers who can apply for like a basically baby's basket. It would mean like having easy on the go intakes, which can be done anywhere through our phones, like when outreach visits clients dealing with domestic violence at their homes, or they go to see an isolated senior at an extended care facility. So we are definitely really looking forward to whatever can be done to help us do what we do.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. We've got a question from Nasir, and this relates to, understandably, what a big change this undertaking represents for IFSSA's daily operations. And Nasir wants to know, are there any thoughts we have around planning for potential client resistance to this enhancement of service? And related to that, how will IFSSA convey this adjustment in services to its current client base?
Yeah, what a great question. I think there's a huge element of change management. That starts with the frontline team. And I think it's been really, really interesting seeing the existential crisis this change brings about, right? When we start to say, hey, if we don't ask this, how will we know if they're eligible for that? And we realize that's not what we're doing anymore, right? We want to figure out what their goal is. And if we know what their goal is, then what's the right solution to it? And that's a significant change. Now, I think for the client, it's also going to be a significant departure from what they're used to. And I think thinking through that is an important process. Part of it is also looking at the physical environment as well. So if we think about our current spaces, they're very institutionally based. And we're in the midst of a physical move as well. And that physical move needs to reinforce kind of some of the same messages and reduce the trepidation and potential resistance, right? Something as simple as like, if we want to motivate a client to take a photo to go along with their profile, well, how are we making them feel, right? What does it look like when they walk into the space, and do they feel like elevated, or do they feel demotivated, right? So I think there's huge elements, and I think interface plays a role in that. I think also the way we ask questions, the way we connect clients to their goals will help reduce that trepidation. But it is venturing into the unknown, and there will likely be stumbling blocks, and we have to be comfortable taking an incremental approach.
I see that Luca asks, sounds a little like planting the seeds of digital transformation. Can you talk about the organization's strategic plan? And are there other digital work streams or goals?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our strategic plan is islamicfamily.ca/2020, and that's our 3-year strategic plan. We're also working on a long-term plan that goes beyond that. So along with Transform, there's Amplify. These are 2 elements of digital transformation in the organization that change how we interact and how we support people. I think there's plenty of other opportunities. Factored into both is building a brand new architecture for communicating with clients, like realizing that what's pivotal to the work we do is bidirectional communication that can happen in a number of modalities and via a number of messengers. And so I see this role growing and stewarding a lot of that digital transformation as part of a larger shift in the sector.
Thanks, Omar. I'll just ask a quick housekeeping question here that might be useful for our audience. I see that it's 42 past the hour. Will we stay live until the top of the hour or beyond it? I'm just wondering what we're able to do, given that I've got a list of questions here that I think are interesting for us to address.
I can stay a little longer, yeah.
Awesome. So a question coming from Jaswinder here is, how much access would the product manager have to end users for user interviews? And he adds, considering it might be a sensitive topic to talk about their journey and support system.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways of facilitating that. There's also a significant amount of research to build upon and a significant amount of experience just talking to Maria, Samara, the frontline team. But I can also understand why someone might want, firsthand experience. And I think there's a variety of ways of facilitating that. It's a little bit complicated with COVID, but it's not impossible. Like it's by whatever means possible, we can facilitate that.
Excellent. Question from Ibrahim. Is this role limited to a specific geographic or time zone?
No. It would be ideal for a number of reasons for the person to be able to work within Canada. And what we are hoping is that at some point, as COVID restrictions relax, that this person is able to visit Edmonton, is able to understand kind of what the physical environment, how the physical environment might connect with the digital environment, for instance, and is building some of those relationships. But I think significant amounts of this work can happen anywhere.
And a question from Spencer. What does near term, as in, let's say, the next 3 months, what does near-term success look like to our team with respect to outcomes?
Yeah, great questions. So on the Transform challenge page, that share.islamicfamily.ca, there's a link to the MVP list. These are features we want to see in the minimum viable product that we developed alongside MetaLab. What we're hoping is that maybe it's the next 4 months, is that we've chosen the product manager, we've chosen the developer, and that we're at the end of that period testing and trialing a product out. And we feel like within that time period, we should be able to get to an MVP as our hope.
Excellent. And I wonder as well, this question comes from Usama. What technologies are involved in building the product or products, perhaps?
Yeah, that's Usama, would you mind elaborating on that? That there's I think what we have to be thinking about is initially what Transform is, building out a rules-based engine to support long-term training data that then supports machine learning insights. What platform or what technology supports that, we're fairly agnostic to. What we want to keep in mind as we choose tools is the long-term sustainability and ability to continue updating the product internally.
Perfect. And I know, Omar, you wondered if Usama could expand on that. So if Usama is still with us here in the stream, I'll be paying attention to see if there's a follow-up. I thought, though, that I might ask, and we'll see how much time we have here, but let's go big picture again and talk about what the light at the end of the tunnel might be here for us. We've got these big ambitions. We're confident, we're excited in our ability to make these a reality and have the product manager be a massive contributor to that. But where is that going to take IFSA and its clients? What's the light at the end of the tunnel here?
I'd love to hear Maria talk about the light at the end of the tunnel.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really, really excited about this. As I mentioned before, Bissell Center has been using or maybe I didn't mention this, the LifeWorks self-sufficiency matrix as a tool to measure life situations and goals and progress in different domains. And so that is a tool that has been used across the world in different research and by different organizations. And so one of the things that is very exciting is that if we could have like in the sector a standard tool that is used across the sector, that would be amazing. It would give us comparable data, and it's a fairly robust, reliable, validated tool as well. So thinking and measuring people's journeys in the same way, I think, would be such a powerful way to leverage action and improvements in people's lives. And so again, and with better or good data and good processes also comes like cleaner data. And so this could be amazing in terms of analysis, understanding better what works and what doesn't, and also machine learning, which is so exciting because I mean, we analysts only have so much time to ask so many questions, but if we involve machine learning in solving the problems that are plaguing our communities and the world at large, I think it could really take us to a whole nother level of problem solving. So really, really excited. That's kind of my light at the end of the tunnel. And of course, the user experience and how much more empowering it would be for staff to be able to have a companion technology to help them do this incredibly hard work, and to be able to see how far they've come and how much of a big difference they've made. Because sometimes it can be, and I'm sure Sumera can attest to this, it can be grueling and draining, and when you see a day-to-day people in crisis, and you don't get to see just the huge volume of change that aggregates over the months and years that you've actually made. So yeah, that's kind of my light at the end of the tunnel. So
Thanks so much, Maria. I'm wondering, are there any final thoughts that we might want to add here? That this kind of big picture view might be a nice place to wrap up.
I'm really appreciative of the questions that came from the audience. They're fantastic questions, and really excited to see what people submit. In terms of next steps, we'll be closing the applications on the 7th. One of the things I really encourage people to do is go through the posting, and remember that we're hoping people will send an email to careers@islamicfamily.ca with not a cover letter, but something that tells a story about something they've developed. Could be a success, could be a failure, preferably not a cover letter. And we'll have next steps going from there. You can find that job description again at share.islamicfamily.ca/product manager. And if you have questions, please feel free to shoot them. I know we didn't get to all the questions. I really appreciate everyone that submitted a question.
And Omar, if our audience does have questions that come to mind after we end the stream here, what's the best way for them to ask? How should they get in touch?
I think email is great. We'll continue to monitor the YouTube stream, but email would be my preferred method.
Great. And would that also be careers@islamicfamily.ca?
Yeah.
All right. So I know we've put out a last call for questions. I'm not sure I see anything else coming in. Is there anything final that we'd like to add, Maria or Samara, before we wrap up?
Just looking forward to working with the new product manager. It's been such an honor and such a pleasure to work with the team here. And so looking forward to digging in and rolling up our sleeves together.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody that tuned in and was able to ask us questions. It helps us to kind of further the journey.
Yeah, and thanks to Toba and Amy who facilitated and helped provide the tech and answer a bunch of the questions that were in the chat. Special thanks to Craig, Maria, Samara for helping make this whole thing come together.
Thanks so much, Omar.